There.
Will be order. Be it resolved that the agenda for the October 18th, 2022 meeting be accepted as presented. Someone move that. Councilor Corey, seconder. Councilor Hargraves. All in favor? Michelle? Thank you. Confirmation minutes. Be it resolved that the minutes of the September 20th, 2022 regular meeting of council be hereby approved as circulated. Move that. Councilor Hargraves, seconder. Councilor Hatch. Discussion, any errors or omissions? All in favor? Thank you. Finance, be it resolved that October 13, 2022, general accounts payable being checks number 5986 to 6046 in the amount of $665,707.07 be hereby approved. Did you do that? Councilor Harvey, second Councilor Corey. Discussion? All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 232 being staff payroll for the period September 19th to September 30th, 2022 in the amount of $15,504.12 be hereby approved. Please move that. Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Hargraves, discussion. All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 9999 being staff payroll for the period October 3rd to October 14th, 2022 in the amount of $16,619.54 be hereby approved. Please move that. Councilor Corey, second. Councilor Hargraves, discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Resolved that direct deposit 235 being election payroll for the period October 3rd to October 14, 2022 in the amount of $167.49 be hereby approved. Please move that. Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Corey, discussion. All in favor? Be it resolved that direct deposit 233 being council indemnities for the month of September 2022 in the amount of $5,416.34 be hereby approved. Please move that. Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Hargraves, discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Utility account, be it resolved that October 13, 2022 utility accounts payable being checks number 914 to 925 in the amount of $13,350.60 be hereby approved. Please move that. Councilor Hatch, seconder. Councilor Corey, discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Statement of revenue and expenditures, be it resolved that the statement of revenue and expenditures report to September 30th, 2022 be received as presented. Please move that. Councilor Corey, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor? Carried. Bank reconciliations, be it resolved, the bank reconciliations for the month of September 2022 be approved as previously circulated. Please move that. Councilor Hargraves, seconder. Councilor Hatch, discussion. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay. Delegation. We don't have.
Would you like me to present the information as we've received it? So we've got a bit of the
Sure.
written, yeah. So going back several years, there is the property that is across number 10 highway, basically directly across from Trees Bank Road. When the previous owner was looking to sell it, she had asked our office if we could do up a letter of some sort to her to let her know that the property in its current use was, I'm going to say, legal. So in going back and taking a look at that time, we were operating under the old zoning bylaw. And so what I was able to provide the previous owner was a zoning memorandum that indicated, in accordance with our bylaw at the time, what the regulations were for agricultural uses and what the siting regulations were on that property. And a note to indicate that the property as built predated our zoning bylaws, and as such, it would be deemed to be legally non-conforming. The current owners have approached the municipality. They have determined that the property size is 1.99 acres, where our records had all showed it was 2.22. Assessment has done a review, they've made the change. But what the property owners are also asking for is an indication that all encroachments, encumbrances will be removed. And I can't do that. That is something that their solicitor should do a search of land titles to see if there is anything filed against the title. If you notice on the picture, the roadway that's coming down from the north and making the turn to the west, that's actually MIT. So we certainly have no jurisdiction over removing any kind of encroachment that MIT may have put on the property. Across the road, you clearly see Trees Bank Road, and you see where it stops at the highway. There is the little faint line all the way across the rest of the page that would show that that is our municipal right-of-way. It has obviously never been developed. Darcy says it's not an area that is likely to be developed, given that it's kind of down low and a bit sloughly. I can't guarantee them that the road would never be opened or used. The best I could do is, if council wanted me to prepare the zoning memorandum, I can prepare it in a state similar to what we did with the previous owner, that the building, even though it is encroaching on our setback lines, is legally non-conforming, because again, it predates any of our zoning bylaws. And if council wanted to go as far as to indicate that they would support a road closing bylaw, so that we would actually formally close that at the current owner's expense, that is about the only way that I believe we could make that statement, that it will never be developed. I mean, I know from the conversations council has had to date, there has been no indication that you anticipate anything being done there. But I'm not sure that you can, by resolution, tie the hands of any future councils if for any reason that needed to be developed.
Okay, so you have this resolution here.
I do.
And that is to formalize that legally non-conforming?
Yes. And I didn't know if council wanted to go as far as
Road closure?
road closure.
So if you close a road, can it be reopened again or no?
I would suspect if there was ever any reason to reopen from the other end coming forward, I believe you can do a road closure that would close just the portion of the road that would affect their property. Again, I'm not sure that the government will let us do it, given the fact that MIT owns the property. Yeah.
So what happens if someone, the owner of this pasture here, sells off 80 acres and somebody wants to build a road from the MIT road in? That could happen.
That could. That could.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we want to tie the hands, but I don't have a problem with this.
Doing the zoning memorandum
Yeah.
stating that it is legally non-conforming at this point in time.
Yeah, if their lawyer wants to get into the encumbrances or whatever, they can deal with that accordingly.
Yeah, like I said, I've taken a look, at the time that I did the zoning memorandum in 2019, I took a look through our agreement files, and I don't have anything on file of anybody of the municipality entering into an agreement. That doesn't mean that at some point there wasn't something put down on paper, but I certainly don't have a copy of it and didn't find anything doing a quick search of the minutes. But like I say, my other concern would be the fact that MIT has this, so I would suspect that they may have something against title. So if what I'm hearing from council is simply that we would end it, that we do the memorandum indicating that the property is legally non-conforming and leave it at that.
So I'll do it. Be it resolved that the administration will be directed to prepare a zoning memorandum indicating that property known as Northeast 3819 WPM is legally non-conforming, including an indication that the municipality does not intend to open nor maintain its municipal right-of-way on the property.
So are you wanting that one to be defeated, or do you want to just move the motion and stop it after legally non-conforming?
I'll leave it there. Do we have a mover?
So we're gonna leave exactly
We
what's
can
here.
change it once we have first, second.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Argy, seconder, Councillor Hatch. Now, if you wanted to amend it,
So we'd be looking at an amendment that just takes out what's in parentheses here, including
yeah,
the right of way.
right.
And the reason was just to not tie the hands main one.
Yeah, that's what I would think. And you leave yourself open if you can. They could put a road there. And they'll get to the property owners to deal with the legal.
And I mean, the way I see it currently, even if we did that, it wouldn't free them up anyways because of MIT. If MIT then was to back away from that, they could come back to council in the future and then ask the same thing, I suppose.
Just you make that amendment.
Yeah, I can make that amendment.
Have a second?
Yes, we do.
Seconder for the amendment, Councillor Corey. So
So you will be voting just on the amendment first, which will be to remove the words,
Right.
including an indication that the municipality does not intend to open nor maintain its municipal right of way on the property.
all in favor? Okay, carry.
And then you will be
Second
going
part.
back to your main motion, which will now be the be it resolved that the administration be directed to prepare a zoning memorandum indicating that the property located at the Northeast 3819 WPM is legally non-conforming.
Right.
And we have a mover and a seconder already.
All in favor? Okay, carry. Okay. Public hearings, you got the animal control hearing. We'll get the background from CAO.
Okay, so I did send you out under a separate package, a copy of the letters of complaints that have been received. I didn't include that in the public document just because it does have names and addresses. So this is an item that has gone back to February when we had the initial complaints. It was kind of quiet through a bit of the winter and then it has picked up again starting this summer. We've had individuals who indicated that the dogs, when they tried to kind of shoo them out of their laneways, that the dogs appeared a bit aggressive. We have had other people who have indicated that the dogs have come into their yard, and while not aggressive towards their children, just in their exuberance of playing and horsing around, have knocked children down. Those individuals did indicate that they were worried if their own dog had been out in their own yard, what may have transpired because their dog is occasionally leashed or tied up in their yard. And then more recently than that, after we had started preparing documentation on this, we had an individual come in and provide pictures that they had witnessed the dogs mauling a cat, and provided pictures that the cat is obviously injured, there is blood visible, and that the dogs went on to chase and worry a horse. And the person who had witnessed this, although the owner of the horse wasn't at home, they were concerned enough that they got a hold of the horse and put it away in the stable. So there has been definitely some indication there. When we spoke to the animal control officers, animal control and bylaw did attend the owner's property. They could hear people inside, they could hear the dogs inside, but nobody would answer the door when they went to present the animal control orders. As they left the building, the orders that had been taped to the door were in fact retrieved and taken inside. And so they were aware of that. There has been no communication with this office. There has been no communication with the animal control officer at that point. The concern is that the dogs continue to run loose at times. And so the animal control officers would like a determination from council on whether or not there is sufficient evidence based on the mauling of the cat to deem the animals dangerous, so that they could in fact do an assessment of the animals. And I don't have any information from the owners of the dogs. Bylaw and animal control had said that if council had specific questions, they would be available by phone.
Well, I don't know if it's a dog's fault. I'd say it's the owner's fault that they're not tied up or in a run. Like, as much as my golden retriever killed a kitten the other day, I mean, she's the nicest dog in the world, but if you give a dog an opportunity to do something, they probably will, and that's not sure. I don't know if we have enough information to consider them dangerous, but I think somehow you have to go after the owners for not keeping them contained, especially in town.
And part of the making a determination that they are a dangerous dog allows for the dogs to be picked up and assessed. And they actually do an assessment based on having them interact individually or together with small dogs or in a run adjacent to a cat, anything such as that, so that they can start to make a determination as to whether or not the dogs, I guess, present any kind of danger if they do get out. We certainly agree. The last thing animal control actually wants to do is take more animals. They would actually prefer to work with the owners and provide any information and assistance with respect to how to properly build a run for them, construct a fence for them, if there's any kind of materials that are better, such as putting gravel down on the yard area of the run so that it is sanitary. But when they attended the residents, the owners weren't prepared to speak with them.
How many times have these dogs been reported to the municipal office?
I'm going to say there has now been 4 times. So the time in February, we had an individual come in. Then we had people come in and the dogs were loose. They took the information for the animal control officer to call them directly so that if the dogs were out again, they could call animal control. The 2 individuals that were in that day no sooner got back home and the dogs were out again. And so they called animal control and the animal control officer came out, but by that point, the dogs were no longer out on the street. We had somebody phone a member of our administration here who, because she happened to be around, went and seen herself if she could find the animals, and they were no longer around. And then we had the complaint with the dog mauling or the cat mauling and the horse.
And you received nothing from the owners of the dogs back?
No.
So basically, to get things rolling, we have to deem them dangerous dogs with it. Like, we have no way of forcing the owners to build something or.
As we have done in the past, they would have received a courtesy letter with an indication that the dogs need to be kept in a secured area or on leash when they are out in the public. That didn't happen, which is why the second time around when the complaints started coming in, we involved animal control and bylaw enforcement off the hop. We could fine them.
So,
Yeah, can you enforce getting the fine ticket money in? And they can pay the ticket and still not necessarily build a fence that will adequately contain the animals. And in the meantime, as a municipality, we don't know whether the dogs actually are a threat to other animals or whatnot, because nobody has ever done an assessment of them.
So what happens if they assess them? They assess that they're not a danger, but they're still not
Contained.
contained. So like, what do we do then? Like, do we
They
have any?
They would actually likely look to rehome them at that point if they're deemed non-dangerous. And if they're deemed dangerous, then there are other steps that have to happen. So that would be whether or not council wants to release them with a bunch of conditions. A couple of the dogs are actually young. So they might be,
Like, how many dogs are you talking? I didn't.
lately what I have been hearing is 2 dogs, but at one point the complaint was that there were 3 dogs. I believe one of the dogs has maybe rehomed next door. And they have said that they will make an effort to get all their shots up to date, and they will look to rehome that dog. But there could be still 2 others at the other residence.
Well, I think our worst possible outcome is we don't do anything and they maul a kid or something, so in a way, it's unfortunate, but I think probably we do have to have them assessed but I mean, I still, as what keeps coming up, I think the owners need to be taking these steps to make sure that they're not out, whether they're dangerous or not dangerous.
Yeah, that's the path we have to take to get them to abide by bylaws, and then I guess that's what we have to do.
So under public hearings, once council has all of their questions answered, we'll conclude the public hearing. And then when we get down under general businesses, when council will actually make a decision on the matter.
And especially when they haven't
Yeah.
made any effort to contact the office or animal bylaw or anything.
Okay, be it resolved that the hearing with respect to animal control at 410 7th Street, Wawanesa, be adjourned. Okay, move that. Councilor Harvey, seconder. Councilor Corey. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll go to communications.
Okay, under communications, you have information from Agriculture in the Classroom requesting support for their program. It isn't something that we've ever received a grant request before. I'm not sure that it falls within your existing grant policy. We can put the information in our grant folder, and a determination can be made once budget deliberations are underway as to whether or not this would be something that would move forward. Association of Manitoba Municipalities sent information dated September the 15th, 20th, 22nd, 23rd, and 29th, as well as October the 7th. Canadian Beverage Container Recycling Association has sent information on their Recycle Everywhere program. Collaborative Procurement Initiative Canada sent their newsletter. Federation of Canadian Municipalities have sent 4 communiques. They are dated September the 20th, September 26th, October 3rd, and October the 11th. Hudson Bay Route Association has sent information on their AGM. Manitoba Association of Watersheds sent information on their 2022 conference. Manitoba Environmental Industries Association sent information on the Clean Tech Conference. Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure sent an acknowledgement letter for correspondence we had sent out. Minister of Municipal Relations has sent out information on their Properties in Lieu grant. Manitoba Relations Bulletin Number 2022-31 provides information on a new member to their leadership team. Prairie Mountain Health sent their October newsletter. Procurement Services Center of Excellence sent information on the CETA single point of access. Southwest Caucus sent information out on a letter that they forwarded following meetings that they had with the ministers. Southwest Community Options provided information on their open house, and that has already happened. We received thank you letters from Brandon Regional Health Center, Prairie Mountain Health, and from STARS for the donations that council made to them. And we received information from the Western Canadian Municipal Associations about their annual meeting.
Be resolved that the above noted communications be received. Someone to move that. Councillor Hatch, seconded. Councillor Corey. All in favor?
In favor.
Carried, thank you. Go to committee reports. South Ward, Ward 3. Councillor Corey, a written report, anything to add?
No.
Councillor Soyak, who's on the phone, anything to add to yours?
No.
Ward 2, North Ward, Councillor Hatch, you have a written report, anything further to add?
Nothing to add.
Councillor Hargraves,
I have nothing and have nothing.
Okay. Councillor McDonald has written report. Gregor has written report. There's my written report. Nothing to add to it. CAO's report, anything to add?
Nothing further.
Finance officer, anything further to add?
Nothing further.
Public Works, Darcy, you have a written report, anything to add to it?
No, nothing to add.
The Fire chief's report. Be it resolved that the verbal and written reports be received. So please move that. Councillor Harvey, secondary. Councillor Hatch, discussion. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, carried. Okay, bylaws. Be it resolved that bylaw number 32-2022 being a bylaw to establish an emergency mitigation and preparedness reserve fund be read a second time. If somebody could move that. Councillor Corey, seconder. Councillor Hatch, discussion.
I wasn't at the last meeting. Could someone just give me a quick update of what this is, please?
Certainly. So with our disaster financial assistance that we applied for this year for the flooding, the municipality is going to be required to pay a deductible. The deductible is in the amount of approximately
14,000.
and a bit. If the municipal, 14,000 and a bit is what our deductible would be. If the municipality participates in the emergency mitigation and preparedness program, the province will actually refund that amount back to us. It either has to be used immediately on a disaster mitigation program, or it can be put into a reserve and held for up to 5 years. And if there are any future floods or whatever, the deductible from those initiatives could also be added to that reserve so that you could do something a little more substantial. In order to have a reserve, you have to have a bylaw. So we have prepared the necessary bylaw so that when we receive the funding back, we could in fact put it into the reserve.
We don't lose it then.
We don't lose it. Yeah, I guess it's not funding back. We just don't have to submit it.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
In favor.
Be it resolved that the bylaw number 32-2022 be read a third and final time. This is a recorded vote, so please move that. Councillor Hatch, seconder. Councillor Corey. All in favor?
In favor.
Unanimous. Okay. So the summary of the presentation of the audited financial statements. Be it resolved that the summary of the presentation from Brett Fordyce from Census Partnership of Chartered Accountants regarding the 2021 audited financial statements be received. So you please move that. Councillor Corey, seconder. Councillor Hatch, discussion. Just a recap of what he said here. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. Okay, general business. Now this is where we get back to the animal control hearing.
Correct.
So we have be it resolved that we proceed with the dangerous. Okay, how do you have it worded there?
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. Okay, I can read
Yeah.
that. Be it resolved that the dogs described as being Black Lab Pit Bull Crossed, owned by Blair Hebert at 410 7th Street in Wawanesa, be deemed dangerous dogs in accordance with Animal Control Bylaw 05-2021. And further be it resolved that an animal removal order be prepared for apprehension of the dogs for assessment by the animal control officer. And further, if the dogs are not surrendered, that the solicitor be instructed to prepare the necessary warrant for the dog's apprehension.
Please move that. Councillor Murphy, seconder. Councillor Hatch. Discussion?
Just so I'm clear, that we have moved that they're deemed dangerous dogs, that doesn't mean that they have to be assessed to be.
Correct. Correct. When the animal
Still
control
assessing.
officer has the opportunity to do the assessment, they could come back, at which point if they say that there is no concern of the dogs being dangerous, council could in fact revisit this resolution and reverse it.
All in favor?
In favor?
Unanimous. Thank you. Excuse me. Whereas pursuant to section 372 of the Municipal Act, the municipality may set a reserve bid on the amount of the tax arrears and costs in respect of the property. Now therefore be it resolved that a reserve bid be placed on all properties in the amount of all arrears and costs in respect of each property listed for tax sale. Please move that. Councillor Hargreaves, seconder. Councillor Hatch. Discussion? All in favor?
In favor?
Thank you. Carried. Okay, whereas a dilapidated building located in Carroll, Manitoba is being demolished by the new owner, and whereas the new owner is wanting to burn small amounts of the demolished material in a contained and controlled manner, and whereas the fire chief does not approve burning permits in residential areas without council approval, therefore be it resolved that council approve. Finish that off for me, please.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which direction council was wanting to go, so we
We'll get
could
a resolution.
yeah. Now therefore be it resolved that the fire chief be advised that council supports his approval of a burn permit to conduct burning in a controlled and contained manner.
Would this be the store?
Yes,
Just be one time.
yes, and I would say at the property located at, and I'll have to get the address for it. So yes, it is the old store.
So I'll read it on again, just so you.
Now therefore be it resolved that the fire chief be advised that council supports his approval of a burn permit to conduct burning in a controlled and contained manner at the property located at, and I'll have to get the legal address and the street address for the old store.
Do we have a mover? Councilor Hargreaves, seconder. Councilor Corey, discussion?
So if they get a permit, Dennis is okay with allowing this to happen?
Fire chief was under the belief that there had been a bylaw in place in Wawanesa that would prohibit the burning of anything that could be taken to the landfill and disposed of there. I do not see well, in fact, I don't see that bylaw because we've had a new fire prevention bylaw in place, so we may have to amend that. I do not see where there was a similar bylaw for the Oakland side of the house. In your package, I had provided a picture of when we got the call here that the burning was taking place. I went out and took a look at it, took some pictures of it. What the new owner is doing is using a tractor. He demolishes a small bit of the building at a time. He sorts out any lumber that is worth recycling. He puts aside any metals, and he had a small area where he had a chair situated where he was conducting a small burn at a small piece or two at a time. And he only does it when he is home because he works out of province. So he is home during certain periods of time and was only doing it when weather conditions were such that he had no concern that it was going to get away on him. Dennis was saying that there have been times where as a fire department, they have done some controlled burns in situations where there isn't an issue with it being in a residential area where right next door you might have something else that could be damaged. Where the old store is, there isn't anything immediately around it. But Dennis certainly wasn't going to approve a burn permit without first knowing whether or not council was supportive, or whether council's preference would be that anything that is demolished be hauled to the waste transfer station.
So if we approve it, fire gets away and burns another property, council on the hook.
I would say that, yeah, if we have approved burning in, or you have approved burning in a residential area, because there's no bylaw that currently prevents it. So it's not that you're contravening something in existence. This is the fire chief, I think, being cautious. But again, it is certainly council's prerogative. You could instruct the new owner that the material has to be hauled to the waste transfer station for disposal there. Darcy.
What's the topic of conversation come up in the house?
No, it has not, Michelle. This was something new for me.
I'm gonna say typically, we also suggest that in terms of demolitions, they don't go to the waste transfer station. Because it has to go in the bin anyways, so deal directly with municipal waste and get your own bin.
And Darcy, what about material that would be burnable?
Wood, but you'd have to sort and separate
And that is what he is doing, so that could be a,
So we could haul the wood to
the wood could be burned, the rest would have to go in a bin, so.
So would he not just, to do this whole process, he could like have like 50 fires going over a 2 month period of time?
Where he's home.
yes, and the requirement with the burn permit is that he notify the fire chief each day that he was anticipating doing a burn, and the fire chief approves it at that time.
he's been poking away at it. I've driven by all fall, but I can't say I've ever seen a fire, but he has been slowly demolishing it.
Is he halfway done?
No, the main structure's probably still there. At least last time I went by last week.
Like how remote is the old school compared to,
I mean, the store,
yeah, the store?
it's right on the south end. It's not super remote. The hall's north of it, half a block. and Mobile home north of it, and his house would be 2 or 3 lots to the west of it. Maybe a house on the other side of the street.
Yeah, there's nothing immediately adjoining, but it is certainly within the settlement area. It's not on a quarter section.
Don't put me in can of worms.
Ken? Anything further on this? Not, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval? Opposed? What's yours, Michelle? What did you say?
I said Mark,
In favor? Unanimous, not in favor?
Okay. So the recommendation from council would be,
If he's sorting it already, haul the wood to the,
Get a container, like.
yeah, haul the wood to our landfill if he wants, and get a container for everything else.
Direct.
That's different, it's out in the middle of the quarter section.
Are you moving or are you?
I am preparing. All right, so then be it resolved that the owner be required to dispose of waste from the demolition either through a waste container at his property or by hauling material that can be burned to the waste transfer station.
We wish to do that. Councillor Hargreaves, seconder. Councillor Corey. Discussion? All in favor?
In favor?
Carried. Okay, be it resolved that in accordance with the Blanket Enbridge Access Agreement, the request for Sun Valley land to use two existing approaches in north 22717 WPM, as outlined in the correspondence dated October 12, 2022, be approved. So if please move that.
I'll move it. I'll move it.
I'll get a second first. I have a second. Councillor Corey, go ahead. Councillor.
Joni, on the stuff you sent out, I thought it said south. Maybe I'm wrong. I just have a conflict with it, so.
I think it was the south half of the north, but let me. Maybe I'm. Don't know where I thought I read that.
Right here. Southeast of 22.
Yeah, like we,
The south half of the north.
yeah, it says southeast quarter here though. 27, 22, that's ours, mine, I probably just said,
Okay,
that's,
in which case we'll remove you as mover.
So that has a different moves. So we should do that. Councillor Hatch, move it. Councillor Corey, second that one?
Yeah.
You're okay with mover? Jay? Okay. So, we got the numbers all right?
Well,
yeah,
I can word it exactly as they showed it
Yeah.
here, the south half and the north half.
That was DH. Section 22-717. Darcy, you have no concerns with this? No. Okay.
And our existing blanket agreement does give the indication that anything that they disturb or whatever has to be restored to its prior state.
Okay, all in favor?
In favor?
Okay, carried. Be resolved in accordance with approach policy trans 008, application of Chris Hardy to construct an approach on Road 48 North, located on part of Northwest Quarter 34-819 WPM be approved. Would you please move that? Councillor Hatch, second Councillor Corey. Discussion? And that's just has to follow our approach policy. All in favor?
In favor?
Great. Okay, and this is a new one. Be it resolved that the subdivision application number 4157-22-8457 as submitted by Aaron and Trista Jackson and Jesse Cherrier to subdivide the southeast quarter 1819 WPM be approved subject to number 1, a variation order being granted to reduce the minimum required site area for lot 1 from 80 acres to 43.9 acres. And number 2, a variation order being granted to reduce the minimum required site area for lot 2 from 80 acres to 59.82 acres and to reduce the minimum 1,000 site width to 790.58 feet. Please move that. Councillor Hargreaves, seconder. Councillor Hatch, discussion?
so.
I can provide you,
There's been no, not the province, what I read, they didn't, everyone said it was okay.
everyone said it was okay. When I spoke to Peter about this, the Community and Regional Planning was looking at this as a request by Mr. Jackson to kind of square off his farmland and to allow the neighboring property owner, which happens to be Jesse Cherrier, to purchase that property. Part of Jesse's property, he had the 2 6-acre lots. And part of his requirement with having the home-based business was that he was going to have to consolidate those 2 lots. And what Community and Regional Planning has recommended here is that those 2 lots and the new land that he's taking over all be consolidated onto one title. And so that was part of their recommendation. And like I said, they were treating it as a squaring off of the boundaries of Mr. Jackson's property.
Yeah, so my concern is that we've had complaints about this home-based business. Is it going to be bigger? Is it going to, I guess that's my problem, and I guess I have a problem. My problem, and it's probably not to do with this, but I just don't think that some of these home-based businesses should be considered home-based businesses should be taxed as commercial. That's just me. I don't know. Next council wants to go down that road or not.
I did ask Community and Regional Planning whether or not, knowing that there had been concerns about the wedding venue, whether there was a way to introduce it with the subdivision. His recommendation was the home-based business is a permitted use and was granted as such. And if council at any point wanted to attempt to start using development agreements, anytime something like that comes forward, that we would probably need advice from our solicitor as to whether or not we have any grounds when the bylaw indicates that it's a permitted use to start imposing development agreements that might limit such things as hours of operation or noise or whatever. With respect to this subdivision application itself, the only reason Jesse Cherrier's name comes into it is the fact that he's going to be required to consolidate the piece that is being subdivided off with his existing properties. Otherwise, it would simply be a subdivision by Mr. Jackson to square off his farmland. So if council was going to deny this under the new rules from the Planning Act change, we would have to provide grounds as to why you didn't want the subdivision to move forward, and that would be subject to appeal to the municipal board.
So if Jackson just wanted to subdivide it and it wasn't going to go to Jesse, how would they get access to that?
Well, then obviously,
Like, can the subdivision move, like, can it have make it also have a road off of 108?
yeah, you would have to do something different there. Now, typically what happens is somebody decides they want to subdivide, council approves it, and then what they do with their subdivided land is their business. So whether they're selling it to the adjacent farmer for farmland or whatever, that's their business. The only reason that we're aware at all that Jesse is tied in with this is because of their recommendation that it be consolidated with his 2 other pieces of property.
I think someone came to Jeffrey's situation that you've had some subdivision go in there and they're landlocked, because he's landlocked, you have to make it.
Well, technically that would be landlocked too, if that's the only, I guess that was my question.
You have to make it.
Yeah, it'd be a joint use or,
Yeah, we made him do it illegally.
Oh.
Legally.
yes, it had to be placed on title that he had an access agreement.
So really, like, anyone can subdivide any 80 acres they want, this rule doesn't mean nothing. Really?
In this instance, even agriculture was supportive of this, which usually it is agriculture that puts up the concern.
So is it gonna be what's it gonna be zoned as then?
His property is still zoned as agriculture, I believe. I don't think his
I
ever
thought it was-
switched.
No, but
Would be allowed home-based business. In the ag zone.
no, if they're joining the title, because I thought that was residential, considered residential, ag residential, was it not?
No, when the rezoning went through for, the McNish properties where they were
Yeah.
rezoning into a residential category, this part of the lands were not included in that. They had no interest in being rezoned. So I believe they are still zoned as,
Jackson's are.
and Cherrier, I believe, is still zoned as agriculture, because they didn't see the benefit of being included in the, was an RR5 designation that was going through for most of McNish properties. I can double check for you, but I'm pretty sure that they kept their agricultural zoning. And by virtue of this, even if they consolidate title, that new portion, if it is currently zoned ag, which it would be as part of Jackson's
Mhm,
property,
yeah.
would remain that way unless a rezoning application was ever made.
And let's just say it was something else with that move, he can just
No,
fall into the zone of the
no,
other
it would-
12 acres or?
No, it would stay the zoning designation that it is. We have other properties located where part of it is residential and part of it is recreation and conservation, for instance. And it stays that way unless a rezoning application is made.
All right, call for vote, all in favor?
In favor?
Okay, thank you. Okay, whereas a request has been received to exempt the property located at 323 Provincial Road from special service levies related to municipal water and sewer. Whereas this property is situated within the town limits and was included in the calculations for all water and sewer debentures and special levies. And whereas removal of the property from those special levies resulted in an increase in the special levies for all remaining properties within the town. Therefore, be it resolved that the request to exempt the property at 323 Provincial Road from debentures and special levies related to water and sewer services be denied. Please move that. Councilor Harvey, second Councilor Corey. Discussion, maybe you want to give us a little bit of update there.
Okay, request came in. Previously with the lagoon debenture, there had been exemptions made for two properties that were across the river and couldn't ever be tied in to the lagoon water and sewer services. In this instance, the request had been made at one point by the former owner to be hooked up to water and sewer. When she contacted some contractors, the price that she was given was a bit prohibitive, so she decided not to do it. Council, it's your decision, I guess, on how you would like to treat this. Previous owner had the levies charged against them. It is included in our bylaws. The fact that the current owner has opted to do a well and septic service of his own. The fact of the matter is the property could be included with water and sewer.
My question is, is septic and sewer, like, did they put a field in or they just get pumped out?
No, they have a tank. I'm sure they have a tank. They have-
Holding tank.
This is Joe Jones' property.
So this is the property right beside the river, south side of the bridge,
You
on
just
the
put
west
over
side.
the bridge going to houses, it's right there.
Right.
On the side of the river, yeah.
On this side.
This corner here, just kitty corner from the quad.
But it is possible to hook this property up to water and sewer.
And the previous owner has been paying that levy for, when was it first drawn? I'm gonna say 2016?
Well, I think was in the,
Lagoon?
yeah, just, it expires in 2021. A few more years yet.
So they
but
could have,
they're not getting a water bill or a sewer bill, are they?
they're getting not a bill.
But they're getting, no, but they're
It's
getting a
just
levy.
a
They're
levy,
getting the
yeah.
levy charged against them, but they do not get a utility bill.
so they, what would have been their costs back, way back in the day to hook up when everybody else was getting hooked up?
Well, that property could have been hooked up to water several, like 20, 30 years ago. It just chose not to, and it was cost matter that time for the person, knowing the person. And it stayed a cost thing, so it's good to see if they want to do it. But they are within town limits, so.
And there's no bylaws or anything saying that in town you have to be hooked up, like anyone could have their own well and tank, or?
A lot of people have wells still, like they can water grass and everything with them, and they had water hooked up to their houses, still have it hooked up to their houses. Whether they use it in the house, I don't know.
But if you're in the city of Brandon, you have to be hooked to water, do you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So then lots of people have sand points too to water.
Yeah, I realize that, but
And I believe our utility would indicate that within town limits, the expectation is that you
be
hook
hooked
up to
Yeah.
water and sewer.
There's hardly a reason not to, especially sewer, because you can't have septic tanks in town. Now, that's, they're grandfathered in because they had it already.
they're not getting a bill and it's supposed, they could, and levy, they still could hook up at some point if it's sold again, I think that. I think leave this the way it is.
Okay. All right, call for vote, all in favor?
Not in favor.
Not in favor?
Everything we're exempting them or not?
No, we're denying the,
Denying the request.
okay, thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. Be it resolved that the meeting is now adjourned. Meet again on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Municipal Office in Wawanesa. Can we please move that? Officer Hargreaves, seconder. Officer Hatch, all in favor? Carried, brings over. For those that